Welcome to a beginner's guide on Excalibur. Yes, I know it's Umbra, but let's be real here. The only difference between Umbra and normal Excalibur is Radial Howl causes sentience to shut up any resistance, and the passive Umbra walks around while in combat without transference control. So I'm not really counting that because let's be real here, it doesn't count. Other than that, Umbra and Excal are the same Warframe. But with that being said, we're going to be doing a beginner-friendly build. I do, in fact, plan on doing Volt and Mag. If you check my posts, you can see why I made that post. You can already see the stats that I have here for this build. This is not a complex build. I'm not using galvanized mods. I use Archon Flow on it, but that's because I don't have normal flow. And I don't use any complex, hard to get mods. So let's get into it. We have this. This is the build, right? Which looks weird to you. We have all the Umbral mods, right? Because let's be honest here. I consider the sacrifice a noob's quest. It really is. You get Umbra, the Skia Jati. It's right after the New War. So I'm counting the Umbral mods as, noob wear. If not, I mean, it's fair. You can dog on me on the comments for it. However, for all intents and purposes, I believe Umbral mods and Umbra are noob friendly. Archon flow isn't very noob friendly. I just don't have normal flow. I'm sorry. Had I had normal flow, I would say I would have thrown flow in there, which is a little weaker, but it's a lot easier to get, which is my recommendation to a noob. Just any form of flow, whatever form of flow you have, it'll work. Chromatic Blade is one of the faction mods. Very easy to get. You can either buy it for like 10 to 15 platinum, or you can get it yourself through whatever faction you have. For my aura, why do I have Rifle Amp? To match the aura slot, really. Oh, I have melee guidance. That would also be pretty good. Because combo duration doesn't matter. Just use whatever aura that fits, really. Straight up, that's what I would do. There should be a melee one. I would go with the melee one. But I would just use whatever aura fits so you can fit as many mods in as you can get into your Umbra. And if you notice, this has 0 Forma at all. And everything can be nearly maxed out, especially if that Archon flow is a normal flow, so it would cost like 7 less. Everything would fit maxed out. And then we have Streamline Continuity and Blind Rage, right? Blind Rage is a Deimos Volt mod. It's not too difficult to get. You go into Deimos, you run the Volts. If you don't know how to do that, I'd recommend just Googling it. It's pretty simple. On Deimos missions, there's the Derelict tile set. You would go in there, and then you see a door. You open it with a dragon key that you get from your dojo, and then you can run it, and you'll get, corrupted mods, which is why it has a positive and negative, Blind Rage, Transient Fortitude's one of them. Really, Transient Fortitude would be really good too, because you don't really need duration on Excalibur, because he doesn't drain that much energy to begin with. But I like to have it because, Blind Rage removes 50% efficiency, so I want to max out what I have. His passive, of course, normal Excal just attacks are 10% faster and deal 10% more damage while wielding swords. With Umbra, if you go into your transference form, being your Tenno or your Drifter or whatever you want to call him, Umbra will move on his own. Slash dash, you slash forward, right? It's what I would subsume, but I'm not going to go over subsuming because once again, this is a noob's guide. If you're a veteran, I don't expect you to stick around. I would appreciate if you stick around still and give tips as well in the comments for noobs, I'm not the best Excalibur player. I'm going off of what I would personally do. Radial Howl based off of range. It stuns them. It's a really good AoE. Radio Javelin, again, slash AoE. Exalted Blade is his main damage dealer. Now, I didn't involve arcanes. Realistically, 100% I can argue Arcane Blessing, and I'm going to argue it because it is conjunction survival. It's a noob can farm Arcane Blessing, right? It'll be a little difficult for him. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it won't be, but a noob 100% could farm Arcane Blessing at Uvarium on Lua. So I'm going to throw in Arcane Blessing because you haven't beat the star chart yet. You can't get Galvanized mods, you can't get Adaptation, you can't get, Steel Essence, you can't get Kuva. So I'm not involving any of that, right? And even my melee build, I'm even missing a slot because I'm not forming this. I don't play much Excalibur. I even made a build where it's, like this. Really, what I personally would do is instead of Viral, I would go with Corrosive, right? Throw in a Shocking Touch. Huh? Ah. That's what happened there. Okay, gotcha. Right, I would go Corrosive Heat, right? And if you're wondering where the heat's coming from, it's coming from Chromatic Blade. I'm not going to throw Voltaic Strike on instead of Shocking Touch because it's a like 60 platinum mod that only is available through Borrow and most noobs aren't going to farm it. I'm not going to do that because it's not noob friendly. Focus Energy kind of is, but it's heavy attack. So this is what I would run. If you're a noob, Quickening is a corrupted mod or a Nightmare mod. Fury's just attack speed. Sacrificial Steel and Sacrificial Pressure come on Umbra Blade. And Virulent Scourge is corrupted war from Hot on the Void, which, if you have Umbra, you've done that mission before, And as you can see, because of Chromatic Blade, I have passive heat, and I mean, like, I see my, oh, okay. I mean, really, these are 205s, and these are, like, Steel Path 205s, so really, I'm not gonna deal the most damage to them, right? It's just a matter of fact. This isn't, a min-max build meant to absolutely wreck house and, it's gonna carry you into Steel Path. Like, no. And the only missions in Steel Path, that are level 205 is a Circulus mission. Realistically, what you're gonna be going up against in Steel Path is like level 110. Just arid homies. Like, oh, you can do that? Sweet. Like arid lancers and whatnot, arid lancers, bombards, troopers. Oh, sorry. Heavy gunners, stuff like that for the first bit. And even for that, like Steel Path level 110, you'll do fine, right? And if you're doing Steel Path, you should have Adaptation, which I would recommend throwing on. But even with Steel Path enemies, there's no hassle. And that's with Corrosive, which is, of course, stripping their armor. But let's say, hypothetically, it's, Corpus. Which I should have some good Corpus enemies that I could shoot down. Yeah, we got some Axios, Corpus techs. Let's throw in some Elite Crewmen. Let's throw in some X-misses for good measure. And then let's just, you know, let's just do a little experimenting. Let's go viral instead of corrosive. Right? So now we have viral, and I've just, you know, throw on the status version, just throw on the status version. But if we throw on viral, they get that extra damage. This will carry you through the beginning of Steel Path. There's only really one issue, is like X-misses are going to be really tanky, but you know, that's just how it is. But for a build that's really not that expensive, it's pretty good, you know. And I mean, the only issue is you're going to have to blind them with your Umbral Blade, because if you don't, you just get downed. You know, that's just how it's going to be. You don't really get much of a choice here other than to go down, given the nature of how it goes, you know? Like, that's just how it's going to go. Is you're going to get downed because that's how it is. You're gonna die because you don't have any way to negate that damage, like, say, with adaptation. But if you have, you know, that unlocked straight up, what I would do is, if you still have flow and whatnot, because again, I don't think my adaptation will fit. It might. Ah, my throat, dude. Maybe I'm getting sicky. What I would replace it with is there. Because if you do that, now all of a sudden, you're able to adapt to that damage before they fully start killing you. And now you have the ability to actually take that damage without getting one hit, you know, and then you could, you know, radial howl, blind a bunch of them, you know, and you have some form of survivability. Because really what you're building for Excalibur, oh, Jesus Christ almighty. What you're really, I hate this. I can feel how scratchy my throat is. What? There we go. What you're building for Excalibur really is for strength, right? You don't really need a range on Excalibur, and you don't really need duration, so really you can just build for strength, which is what I've done here. And build for tankiness, which I've also done with Umbral Fiber, you know, all that jazz, which comes with Excalibur Umbra. This is why I'm trying to run a no forma build, just because a noob could use those formas on something a little more valuable. Right now, I've technically, yes, I've shown you how it performs. I am going to run, you know, a Steel Path Mot like I normally do. While, yes, a noob's not going to have it, I also want a noob to know, like, even though this is an incomplete build, like, if you forma this, you could throw on a whole ass another mod, right? That's how it is, right? If you have the galvanized mods, you could throw on galvanized mods, right? Like, I'd rather use galvanized steel than sacrificial steel. It's less crit chance, yeah, but I get extra crit damage, right? Instead of Organ Shatter, I would run something like Gladiator Might. Well, no, I won't actually. That's dumb. Don't do that. Don't listen to me. You know, Prime Pressure Point. You know, Prime Fury instead of Normal Fury. You know, get a little more attack speed in. Things like that. But with that being said, I shall meet you guys in Mot's Steel Path, and we're gonna see if this works the way I think it will. You know, aside from the fact that I didn't script this video, which now I'm very happy I didn't, given how congested I am right now. Let's just talk about Excalibur while I use it, right? Excalibur is one of your first 3 Warframes, right? My beginner's guides, right? I'm gonna start not really building for vets, because let's be real here. If you're a veteran in this game, you don't need a guide, right? And that's just how it is. You don't need these big old guides, and yeah, my Excalibur's not gonna score very well here. Or at least this build's not. It's going to be very, very sketchy. That's what I was expecting. That's a shame. But, you know, like, he's not going to perform all that well. What I really need is rolling guard, which, again, I don't have. And I mean, realistically, what I can do is I could say, good luck, Excal. Go fuck him up, bud. And he's going to go miss all of his shots with my Lado, and I'm going to be really disappointed in it. I guess is what's going to happen there. But he's really, you wouldn't be going up against level 140 Steel Path enemies starting off, right? This is to essentially be like, it's possible, right? With such a simple, thrown together build, he's not necessarily surviving. He's not very necessarily, actually, he's not at all thriving. But you can see the damage, right? And I'm not going to continue it. Because anyone should know not to expect much out of that. There are multiple ways to make Excalibur stronger. And we're going to talk about that. This is where, you know, your more experienced players will be getting a little giddy, right? Because we've gotten over the new part, right? This is like your intro to you can fuck things up with this Warframe, right? One arcane that you can get before you unlock Steel Path. Everything else is before you unlock Steel Path. Let's start talking a little more scary, right? Arcane Avenger. Very powerful. You get 45 flat crit chance, right? Arcane Flow or Archon Flow, Blind Rage, you know, for the most part, I'm actually going to keep all this the same. Because I'm not formatting him. Sorry, not sorry. You know, I can't do much here either because, again, I'm not formatting it. What I would do, however, is I would use Galvanized Steel and Galvanized Element, right? In fact, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to replace Quickening with Galvanized Elementals now for the extra status damage and status chance on melee kill, because viral heat, right? Which really, what I should have been running that whole time is Corrosive, because again, Corrosive is better against Grineer, which yes, I know there were Corpus in that mission as well. However, because of the Grineer, I wasn't doing as much damage to them as I could have been, right? And instead of Fury, because it's only normal Fury, if you have to pick between Fury and Quickening, pick Quickening. Quickening's a better version of Fury. And the Primed Quickening, or Primed Fury, is a better version of Fury, and, you know, depending on what you're looking for, a better version or a different version of Quickening, because this goes up to 55, while that caps out at 40. All depends on what you're looking for. Now, this is where things get different. How do we get Excalibur to do what we want to do? Helmet. Archon shards. Let's talk about potential Archon shards. Ability strength would be good. Melee crit damage does in fact affect his melee. How do I know? Because I run purple shards on my Valkyr, right? Which my max energy is 641, so that would also work on him. So I would run probably 2 Violet Archon shards for the 100% melee crit damage. I would run 2 Azure Archon shards. And maybe, depending on how you want to do it, either an Amber or a 3rd Violet. So you can either get the health pickups, give 20% more energy, or give 20% energy. Energy gives you 20% health. Or you can have more effectiveness on energy, so you can stay top on energy. That's my personal opinion. Now, there's a few things that we can do here, right? Now, we could go for an ability that gives us armor, right? I said an ability that gives us armor. Sacrifice shields to reinforce armor. Defy gives us max armor. Fire Blast, not armor. Okay, relief. Defense. Okay, that'll work. Yeah, you know, like Chroma's ability. You know, Eclipse gives you damage reduction. Damage. Eclipse would be good. Damage reduction 75%. I think it's diminished by a good bit though. I don't know how much. However, it is lessened for good reason, granted. However, this would be a fantastic ability to run on him. It's a little duration based, yeah, so you would have to maintain upkeep. However, you know, reduce damage your Warframe takes, which would give him that extra tankiness, you know? Or go all out, use Wrathful Advance. Go get red crits on him. Yes, you will instantly get red crits on his 4 if you want to go full on out on damage. You know what? Just for funsies, I'm actually gonna put I'm gonna sacrifice some resources for you guys here, right? So we're gonna do that, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna test them both out in Mot Survival. So I will see you in Mot Survival. We'll be starting Wrathful Advance, and then we're gonna use Eclipse to see whether it helps him get tankier. Slight little change, however, instead of Arcane Avenger, we're gonna run Molt Augmented because we're already be in red crit essentially. Another thing, keep in mind, this is still not the most optimal build in the entire world. However, as I stated before, it will in fact inevitably be pure red crits, which is why we took off the Arcane Rage, because we don't really need it for the damage that we're going to be dealing with him, because he will already be running red crits and red crits alone. Now, the issue that I'm already running into is, again, that tankiness. So there is that, but as you saw, very high numbers. So let's try Mirage's Eclipse and see what the damage reduction is more valuable. So we're using Lunar Eclipse for the 75% damage reduction, which should help us survive a good bit better, which in fact it does. We now take much less damage from the enemies, and you know, we can repop board ends. As I'm about to sneeze and I'm in pain, but we're gonna ignore that part. But as you can see, with how it is, Mirage, who's also a quest-given Warframe, would most likely be your best bet. Of course, I'm using, you know, my Tenno to help keep my Excalibur alive with my ability, but even still, it was very abundantly clear just how much more useful Mirage's ability is than Kullervo's if you don't have the prior defense. Now, granted, Archon Shards, you could easily cause it to give you health regen, right? You could use the blue Archon Shards for health regen or more armor, which will decrease your damage, or you could passively heal, which would be pretty useful right about now because there's points where I'm not taking any damage from the enemies and I'm just taking HP down at this point, which isn't, you know, very helpful, so I'm having to go into Tenno, and that's ending my Eclipse, which isn't helping because my Eclipse is what's keeping me alive, you know? And so I have to repop my Eclipse. But with that being shown, I hope this is useful to you. I'm sorry if I'm a little, you know, you can tell I'm a little stuffy. you know, I don't. It's getting to that season. All right, it's fall. It's getting colder, and my body's not liking it. But I hope you learned something valuable here. I hope you enjoyed. Good to like, subscribe, do all that jazz, and I'll see you in the next one. Or it's either Mag or Volt. I don't know who it's gonna be, but it's gonna be one of the two. And we'll be going just as deep in with a new build and going a little deeper, but still friendly. Deuces, boys.